In the world of the martial epic, known as Where Winds Meet, there is a sect that doesn't just embrace poverty, it weaponizes it. While other players gravitate toward the elegant danger of the velvet shade, to inhabit a romanticized world of spy assassin poetry, swirling through the shadows with silk parasols and floral aesthetics, or join the lone cloud to play the high-intelligence strategist, calculating fate from a shadowed pavilion, the 9 mortal ways choose a path that is intentionally repulsive. They dress in tattered rags, so dilapidated they look like they've been scavenged from floodwater, with a rat perched on their shoulder, not as a simple companion, but as a visceral declaration of their identity. In the common tongue, they are called scoundrels, vermin, and street trash. There is a phrase that follows them like a persistent shadow. They are the rats crossing the street that everyone waits to strike. The kind of people you reflexively cross to the other side to avoid. The ones whose very presence feels like a contamination to those who consider themselves clean. Most players see this aesthetic and dismiss it immediately as the joke sect, a mean choice for people who don't take the world seriously. They are half right, because it is indeed a performance. A carefully constructed theater of the absurd, designed to provoke exactly that reaction. But the punchline isn't what the elite thinks. The person you have trained yourself not to see is the person who eventually sees everything. The name of the 9 mortal ways carries the weight of a 1,000-year-old wound, descending from a social taxonomy known as the 3 teachings and the 9 currents. This ancient order divided civilization into the visible pillars of the 3 teachings, composed of the scholars, the monks, and the priests, and the 9 currents, which consisted of everyone else: the street performers, the fortune tellers, the blacksmiths, the beggars, and the merchants. These were the people who kept the machinery of empire running while being considered socially contaminated by the very nature of their labor. For centuries, the relationship between these 2 worlds was defined not by active cruelty, but by a kind of suffocating stewardship. The elite didn't look down on the lower currents with malice. They looked down with the heavy, paternalistic kindness of a patriarch guarding a household. It was a protection that provided social stability at the cost of individual identity, a benevolent hierarchy that viewed the common people as essential, but ultimately stationary. The invisible hands building roads they were sheltered by, but never permitted to own, and forging the very swords the honorable were destined to carry. When a martial sect deliberately wraps itself in such a name, the choice is an act of quiet revolution. They are acknowledging a truth that the elite's protection always sought to obscure, that the foundation is not merely a ward of the spire, but its very lifeblood. Nobody joins this sect out of a desire for traditional weakness. They join because they are ready to acknowledge that when the canopy of the elite finally fails, the only people left standing are the ones who were always in the dirt. 15 years ago, when the Khitan army swept through the city of Kaifeng like a winter wind through wheat, the world learned the true cost of this hierarchy. The righteous sects, those grand temples with ancient lineages like the Ink-bound Order or the Well of Heaven, were the first to fall. It wasn't because they lacked courage, but because they were prisoners of their own architecture. When you build monuments to your own permanence, you become geography. You become a fixed, targetable point on a map. Everyone knew exactly where the legendary schools stood, and everyone assumed their presence would be the city's shield. But when the shield shattered, the people underneath were left with nothing. In the ensuing collapse, amidst the smoke and the mounting casualties, a man named Zhu Yusheng looked at the abandoned and made a choice that no prophecy had ever required of him. He led the survivors, the blacksmiths, the woodcutters, the seamstresses, and the beggars into the lightless depths of the underground ghost market. These were the people society had deemed protected until they became an acceptable loss. Zhu Yusheng realized that a blacksmith's hammer doesn't need an elaborate technique to crack a skull, because it was already designed to break things. And a seamstress's needle can find gaps in armor that a fancy sword would never reach. He didn't offer them the heavy, condescending stewardship of the old ways. He gave them the means to be their own sanctuary. However, revolutions always extract a terrible payment. When the ghost market began to fracture under the weight of the invasion, Zhu Yusheng and his followers made the ultimate sacrifice, walking through the Gate of Ghosts. They inhaled the poisonous mists that strip away consciousness, transforming themselves into shadow soldiers, undead husks capable of one final, mindless charge to save the civilians they left behind. They did it, knowing they would be reduced to movement without memory, hollow things that walk and kill, but no longer remember why or who they were before crossing that threshold into erasure. The ghost market held because of that sacrifice, and the civilians survived because people society called rats decided their lives were worth throwing away to save a world that had never valued them. Today, Zhu Yusheng and his brothers wander those dark tunnels still, with no memory of the names they once held, or the fact that they were the ones who truly mattered. History resists admitting that it was the beggars who saved the civilization, preferring to carve the names of fallen lords into stone, or the 9 mortal ways were erased from the narrative, returning once more to the invisibility they were born into. This history of tactical invisibility is mirrored in the sect's chosen weapon, the mortal rope dart. In a world of gleaming blades and heavy spears, the rope dart is a flexible, temperamental anomaly. A weighted blade attached to a long cord, a peasant weapon that emerged from people who needed to defend themselves with whatever materials poverty granted them. It is a weapon that demands you abandon the rigid geometry of traditional combat in favor of fluid, unpredictable motion. To master the rope dart is to master the art of the sudden transition. One moment you are spinning a harmless-looking thread, and the next you are unleashing an explosive strike that pierces armor from 10 feet away. Its entire design philosophy is unpredictability over refinement, creating angles of attack that formal training doesn't prepare you for. The style is a masterpiece of deception, perfectly suited for those who spent lifetimes being overlooked. Techniques like the blade-bound thread allow you to hook an opponent mid-combination and physically drag them from their optimal range into yours, where all their training becomes a liability. It allows you to drag the towering masters and the high-born down into your gutter, effectively dictating the terms of the engagement through leverage rather than brute force. Perhaps most tellingly, the sect utilizes a skill known as the rodent rampage, summoning rats from the earth to coordinate strikes with the player. It is a grim, poetic reminder of their status. They fight alongside the only creatures that share their invisibility, the scavengers who survive in the cracks of the world. It is not a weapon for those who want to show off. It is a weapon for those who want to control the chaos while remaining beneath notice. This philosophy of concealment is why the sect's modern reputation is one of deliberate absurdity. To the uninitiated, the 9 mortal ways look like a joke. Scoundrels who spend their time flooding the global chat with fake wedding invitations and empty red envelopes that look generous but contain nothing. They are the clowns of the martial world, crashing the ceremonies of other sects specifically to cause disruption. Every other sect wraps itself in the crushing weight of tradition and respectability. But the 9 mortal ways resembles a joke that refuses to offer a resolution. Yet, there is a deep architecture to this mockery. Predators rarely hunt what appears to be broken, and an army will seldom waste an arrow on a clown. While the honorable warrior is scanning the horizon for legitimate threats, the 9 mortal ways are reading their rhythms, cataloging their blind spots, and mapping the contours of their arrogance. They have spent 1,000 years waiting for the advantage of being underestimated, understanding the ancient concept that great wisdom must wear foolishness like a mask to survive. You can see this reflected in the very systems of the game. They provide no stat increases and no conventional combat advantages. Instead, they offer you the keys to the world's hidden systems. They provide an intricate trading network focused on market speculation, supply chain control, and the manipulation of geography itself. In a world where a mansion costs 10,000 commerce coins monthly, you cannot brute force your way to success through combat alone. It requires understanding desire as a language, reading the terrain of human need the way other sects read the terrain of battle. Markets do not fear a blade, and economies remain indifferent to ultimate abilities. But if you control the flow of goods and comprehend the architecture of want itself, you possess power that operates entirely outside the frameworks the strong understand. While the Well of Heaven warns its followers against excessive greed, the 9 Mortal Ways teaches you exactly how greed moves the world. The sect's reputation as tricksters and scammers is earned through mechanics that actively encourage chaos, but there are consequences woven through these systems that don't apply to the more prestigious schools. If your scams fail, if you get caught, or if your tricks backfire because you misjudged your target, you face actual jail time with real penalties and a criminal record that affects how you are treated going forward. You aren't role-playing danger the way the Velvet Shade does, with its romanticized spy aesthetic. You are playing for keeps, in ways that fundamentally change every calculation, because one mistake can end you. That is what life for the 9 currents has always been. One slip and you're finished. One moment of visibility and the righteous authorities beat you in the street. It is an environment that breeds the ability to map blind spots and predict reactions better than any warrior could manage. While honorable sects build monuments broadcasting their importance and carve their names in stone so everyone remembers their greatness, the 9 Mortal Ways build networks that don't appear on any map, because they exist in the gaps that respectable society doesn't acknowledge. They control the ghost market, the place where the legitimate world goes when it needs things it can't ask for publicly. And they understand that power isn't about having the biggest sword. It's about making yourself so necessary that eliminating you causes more damage than tolerating you. Should you join the 9 Mortal Ways? Not if you need your power to be visible, if you need other players to see your strength and acknowledge your danger, or if you need the game to validate your success through rankings and leaderboards. This sect will give you none of that recognition, because recognition is the opposite of what it offers. But if you have ever been essential but invisible, if you've kept systems running while people who don't understand those systems took credit for their smooth operation, or if you've been dismissed by people who couldn't survive a week doing what you do reflexively, then maybe you already understand what this is. The pillars of society got the monuments and the glory, while the foundations were systematically forgotten, despite being the only reason the pillars could stand. But foundations don't break under pressure the way pillars do. They just wait, with geological patience, for the weight above to collapse under its own arrogance. And when everything on top crumbles, the foundation remains exactly where it always was, ready to build something better on the ruins of what failed. The 9 Mortal Ways doesn't promise you'll become a legend, but you'll become the current running beneath the skin of the world, the invisible hands that have always mattered most, especially when no one was looking.